Let's talk about discussions, and while we're at it, we'll talk about groups as well. So if you watched the video on assignments, I mentioned that if you do have group assignments, you'll want to have created your group already. That's also true with discussion board. So I'm going to show you how to create your group first. And groups are found under course resources. Click on the down arrow, go to groups, and I'm going to create a new category. And the project these groups are working on is creating a web page for their business. So I'm going to call it, the category is web group. And I could provide a description, but it's not really necessary. I need to decide how I'm going to put people together. I can choose to do it by number of groups. Let's say I have 13 students in class, so I would want to have 3 groups of 4 plus, well, one that has 5. I would choose this option. No auto enrollments means that I'm going to select the individuals that will go into group 1, group 2, group 3, etc. So that means that I'm putting the groups together myself. This option means that I want to have groups that are not bigger than 4. So I would create groups of 4. If I do that, and I told you I had 13 students in class, I'm going to have one group that has only 1 student. So if you have an odd number of students like that, that's not usually the best choice. You can create number of groups. So what I essentially want to have is 4 groups, and it will divide the students evenly among 4 groups. Self-enrollment means that these are the same kinds of selections, but students can put themselves into a group, and I can create single user types of groups. So I'm just going to go with the first one, because usually at the beginning of a semester I figured out who I want to have in groups, and that works better. So how many groups do I want to have? I want to have 4 groups, well, let's say 3 groups. And I'm not going to, well, I want to restrict enrollments to the students in my class. And I can right away choose to set up a discussion area for each group. That means that the members of group 1 will be able to have a discussion that only they can enter and only they can see, except you, of course, but the other students will not be able to. We're going to skip lockers for now. You can also create, remember Dropbox says you can create an assignment folder for that group. So as they create their documents for their web page, I don't want to get 4 of the same thing from all the members of group 1. I want group 1 to submit their assignments as a group, so 1 submission. So I can make those choices now and hit save. And I can continue here now with the discussion board. So I mentioned that this video is also about discussion boards, so let's see how that works. When you create a forum, you're creating a place where discussions can happen. Once you have a forum for your class, you can then just create topics underneath that forum. So I can choose to create 1 topic per group. This selection means that each group will have a different discussion topic. If I merely want everyone to talk about the same thing, but only in their group, I'm going to go with the second one, which is create 1 topic, but have a separate discussion board for each of those groups. And design. So in this discussion board, each group will discuss their web design strategy, and I can click create, and now I have a discussion board for each one of my groups. I can also in discussion boards, now we're in assignments, These are the group assignment folders. I want to check originality, and I want to give it a certain number of points. I can add a rubric if I want to. I can attach files for them to read or instructions, and I'm going to create. So, oh, and I need a name. Web design image. Okay. So I've created 3 groups. I've created a topic for them and an assignment folder for them to submit their work. Let's go now to discussion board and see what that looks like. Here I had a discussion already created called test discussion boards. That was for the whole class, so everybody can see everything. In this discussion board topic, we have the web group discussion, and this little icon tells you that it's all separated by the students within a group. So when I grade that, I'll see each group's threads and replies separately, which is pretty cool. And the other groups cannot read any discussions that are outside of their group. Let's return to discussion, and if you had another whole class, you could add new topic. We'll just run through that real quick. And it's in the forum for the class. Again, you only have to create one forum for your class, and the rest can just be topics. This is an open topic where everyone can access it, and I'm going to call it Introductions. I never select anonymous posts. I don't want students to be able to do some online bullying and not be accountable. And I can set start and stop dates. And if I scroll back to the top, I can add this to my gradebook right now by clicking on assessment. And I'm going to create a new grade item, as I did before. And this will be intro, discuss, and it's worth 10 points. Cannot exceed, and I'm going to hit save. That's now going to go into my gradebook. Score out of 10. I have to enter 10 again. You have to have it in both places. And I want to discuss this selection here. If you've asked students to make a post and reply to someone else, and you want to grade 5 points for their post and 5 points for their reply, you'll want to check the box to allow assessment of each individual posting. That way you can assign the 5 points to the 2 pieces, which we didn't used to be able to do. Select a calculation method, which would be usually to sum up the post of those scores so that it comes up to 10. And let's look at restrictions real quick. You can restrict discussions by group, and one other setting that you might like, this one is back on the Properties tab, and that is that users must start a thread before they can read other people's threads. So if I've asked a question that I think several people might answer in the same way, I want to choose that. So everybody has to individually post before they have any idea what other people have said. So that's a great option to use. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close. Now, we've been talking about groups and mainly about discussion board. I did just want to jump over here to grades so I could show you that that has now shown up in the gradebook. Here we have the introduction, discussion, and the test drop box that we created. And you can, hopefully my students won't show up here. Yeah, so I would show you that page, but it has my students' names. So it's the Excel sheet view, the column view of the gradebook. As you can see, however, when we created the assignment and when we created the discussion, we were able to add those items into the gradebook right away. So that concludes our groups and discussion.